never, ever did. Rene Sandler, let me ask you about this. The defense knows about these additional searches for suffocation and poisoning, yet they still make arguments that George Anthony did it, or the child drowned in the pool, or Cindy Anthony was doing these searches when they know she wasn't home. Can the defense make any argument they want regardless of truth?
Absolutely not. And let me be really, really clear here. I have a huge problem that Jose Baez wrote a book and espoused his theories and set forward as facts things we know weren't facts in the case, and has come out refuting some things that he said. But absolutely not. A defense attorney has obligations. What was the purpose of his book? To taunt the prosecution here? Let's call this for what it is. The prosecution failed in this case. It didn't present very, very important evidence. But I think both sides here have obligations to the court, obligations to the client by Jose Baez, and obligations, higher obligations for the state as prosecutors. They have special obligations, as you know. But no, a defense attorney cannot espouse anything but fact and truth and cross-examine the facts that come before it.
Let's take a listen to Jose Baez here talking about some computer searches. Again, this is from the trial.
State of Florida took this approach. This gentleman, Sergeant Stenger, a police officer, did in August of 2008 using a software called Net Analysis. He did a report, and his report came out. And this was on the main issue in this case, the chloroform. They were looking for chloroform, and they got it. Okay? They got it. And this report comes out showing the size spot one time, one visit.
You know what's interesting, and yes, prosecutors did not present it, but Jose Baez is making those arguments. He knows in the back of his head, Mike Brooks, that there were additional searches that never came into evidence. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. And I understand. We need criminal defense attorneys. The system falls apart without them, Mike. You understand that. I understand that. But what's always interesting is when you make these arguments about innocence and pointing the finger somewhere else when you know there's other evidence that's going to point directly at your client.
Right. He was waiting for the prosecution to throw that card down, and he would have a trump card for that, but he didn't need it because the prosecution didn't know about it, Vinny, and that's why I can't get around. Why not give everything you have from your forensic investigations to the prosecution if you are the investigator? You know, and sit down with the prosecution. They didn't know about that? They only got 2%? I don't know.
What this does for me, though, at least it sort of helps me get through this to understand that I watched the trial. There was enough for me to convince, to convict Casey Anthony from what I saw and what I heard, which was all the evidence, all the testimony in the trial. This adds to it. Rene Sandler, this absolutely adds to it and confirms what I know, what Mike Brooks knows, but what 12 people down in Pinellas County didn't realize.
Look, we can look back and say this was the smoking gun, this is what would have convicted her. We don't know. We have no idea. We were not in that jury room. But what Mike said is absolutely correct. Look, the obligations and responsibilities rises and falls with the prosecutors in this case. They direct the investigation. They have to master the computer information and have all the information available. But they needed to be directly involved. So blaming the police, blaming the prosecutors, ultimately it is the prosecution's responsibility. And I think Mike would agree they have to work together, and there has to be accountability and coordination amongst those offices in order to put forth the best case possible with all of the evidence. Whether or not it's all used or not is another thing, but to have it all and understand and appreciate the value of computer forensic analysis is absolutely critical to the prosecution.
Critical. This is the day that she was murdered.
Yeah,
Mike?
Absolutely.
Two major mistakes by investigators here. One was the guy who was called by Roy Kronk to the scene, right?
Right.
because he saw something in the woods. The guy who did not investigate and find it, he could have recovered Kaylee's remains earlier. There may have been a lot more forensic evidence there. And this is a big number 2 now, Matt.
Right.
Mike, as well.
He lost his job.
That guy lost his job. I wonder if anyone's going to lose their job here.
I doubt it. I think they realize that they're learning from their mistakes, and hopefully this won't happen in any other case. And you know, I think they admit that there was a mistake made.
Mistakes were made. No mistake here. Big thanks to Rene Sandler and Mike Brooks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Appreciate it.